Over the past few decades, mankind has been damaging the ecosystems and biodiversities of the world. Only recently have we noticed the massive negative impact we are leaving behind. A key example of this is vehicular collisions with wildlife. Over the years, the rate of these crashes have increased by at most 300%. This has caused the death of hundreds of deer and moose. Many other animals are affected by this, like slow turtles, nocturnal raccoons, bears looking for food, and many more. These deaths happen because animals are trying to cross the roads and highways. The bright headlights of the vehicles blinds and shocks these unsuspecting creatures. Oftentimes, the passenger in the vehicle will also sustain either severe injury or death. Since more people are getting onto the roads in recent years, this issue has only worsened. However, people have finally identified this as a problem and are now putting up signs and building tunnels and overpasses for the animals to cross the roads with ease. These changes have been very successful and have shown to eliminate roadkill by 80%. Another species that has been greatly affected by humans is the endangered burrowing owl. The owl is endangered due to how selective its habitat is, as it only takes dry, low-valley grasslands, which only 1% of British Columbia has. The expansion of agriculture and cities has pushed away these owls from their homes. The burrowing owls do not dig their own burrows, they take existing burrows from animals that have already left. However, these digging animals are starting to disappear too, causing many owls to be left homeless. Fortunately, people have noticed this mistake and are starting to help out. They are starting to create artificial burrows in the grasslands and are taking owls there to live. If something hadn't been done sooner, this species would be on the brink of extinction. The burrowing owl is not the only species that has been harmed by us. Our actions have caused the extinction of multiple animal and plant species. However, we are not completely to blame. Some of the extinctions that occur are nature's doing, and out of our power. We are only speeding up the process of some of these extinctions. When expansion of land happens, many trees and habitats are cleared. Unfortunately, deforestation is causing the deaths of millions of animals. On top of that, many more die because of polluted air and water due to global warming, acid rain, chemicals in farming, hunting, and more. Tropical rainforests contain many rare species that only exist within a small area, and clearing or burning the forest would easily eradicate them. This is a major issue that persists to this day. Companies and farms expand and claim more land, and almost nothing is done against them. However, there are some people who strive to protect these species. Nature reserves are being set up for the safety of endangered tigers, rhinos, and panthers. There are also wildlife corridors that connect these reserves with each other. For some, extinction is inevitable, but for others, special breeding programs and zoos can help restore the entire species and reintroduce them back into the wild. The need for more food is always increasing, since the population of the world is always growing. One of the issues in over-farming is that the nutrients and natural fertilizers in the soil become all used up. Therefore, to maintain a constant amount of produce, farmers use nitrogen-based chemical fertilizers. To avoid the abuse of natural nutrients in the soil, the use of crop rotations can sustain regular levels in the soil. This is the case because one crop does not take all the nutrients from the soil, and so if one were to cycle through multiple different crops that take in different nutrients, the old nutrients will be restored. An example of this not happening is in the prairies of Canada. They have massive farms that predominantly grow a single crop, so a lot of the ground's nutrients is taken away. The quality of the organic matter in the soil has dropped by more than 50% in some cases. Crop rotations are expensive, and so for some farmers it is unrealistic to be able to sustain their large farms under rotation. Overfarming is also an issue, because when crops are harvested, very little compost is left behind to revitalize the dried out soil. The compost is called humus, and it also holds together the topsoil so it doesn't fly away or get eroded, destroying the soil. This happened in the Dust Bowl, where the topsoil turned to dust and flew away into the air. Oftentimes, herbicides and pesticides are used to help the crops grow faster and keep the pests off. These chemicals are harmful towards everyone and contaminate our food supply and groundwater. These chemicals also end up deep within the food chain and result in biomagnification occurring. Fertilizers used in farms carry large amounts of nitrogen, but this nitrogen ends up in our seas, causing what is known as dead zones. Dead zones are areas in the sea that are completely uninhabitable for aquatic life. The nitrogen kills fish and plant life spanning over many kilometers. Recently, farmers have started to use organic farming strategies to protect the wildlife and waters. This is done by introducing natural enemies of farm pests and using manure to fertilize the soil. Although it is a little bit more pricey for things to be done this way, it is well worth it. With the amount of fossil fuels being burned, acid rain and global warming have started to become a lot more apparent. The acidity in the water ends up burning the plants and acidifying the soil, so new crops have a harder time growing. And the soil's acidity will just continue to increase because of the rain and nitrogen-based fertilizers. Global warming's effects create storms which come through farms, causing soil erosion and ruining crops. Although storms are happening more often, so are droughts. In the dry summers, plants are unable to survive due to the lack of water, and it is so hot that they cannot save much water in the roots. The heat also affects ranches because the cattle are in need of hay that can't be grown in these conditions. This also makes it so that ranchers have to slaughter their cows early so they don't starve to death. Mangroves and coral reefs are very important organisms to humans. They act as barriers that protect us from high winds, large waves, and even destructive tsunamis. They both act as homes for many organisms like fish. However, we have destroyed 75% of the world's coral reefs to clear trading routes. And mangroves have also been chopped down in the masses. The importance of these two have only been noticed recently. Operations have been made to avoid the destruction of these key organisms. Wetlands are important ecosystems as they hold many plant and animal lives in it. Wetlands are anything that contain water for at least a portion of a year, which include bogs, swamps, ponds, etc. These are very important because they prevent floods by absorbing excess water. In the past, humans have destroyed this fragile habitat by turning them into garbage dumps and urban cities. The garbage placed in wetlands can be very toxic and end up putting many creatures in danger, like birds and fish. Fortunately, the importance of the wetlands has been noticed, and we are actively trying to protect them and the organisms in it. Delta's Burns Bog is the largest bog left in the Northern Hemisphere.